Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I'm working in my nearly finished art journal. That is kind of crazy. I'm going to work in this art journal. Oh, maybe I'll skip over to this page. I'm going to work in this art journal today. I have a few things pulled out that I want to cut out and collage onto here. Maybe I'll use some of the actual sewing patterns in the back. That would be kind of fun. And I have some paints and stencils and things like that. So we're just going to get messy and have a good time in our art journal. I will link the supplies that I end up using down below. Otherwise, let's go. All right, so today's art journal inspiration was kind of the color scheme. I wanted to go with this navy blue and yellow. I love how the pattern paper has this yellowed look to it. And so we're gonna start that in the background. I still don't have collage medium, and that's just my own fault. I keep forgetting to order it. So we're just gonna use some adhesive to put this down. I will make sure to go over the edges. I'll be adding paint and things like that on top. I'm pretty sure it'll stay pretty well. I also could use Mod Podge over top just to secure it down, but I kind of wanted to see how the different wet mediums would react over the pattern paper, because it's kind of this really thin, yet it has a waxiness on top. I'm sure those of you that sew are just laughing at me. I don't use pattern paper. I'm sure that's not shocking because I don't actually do any sewing, but it's okay. So I love the feel of this paper, and I think it's going to make for a pretty cool background. So I'm going to cut off this edge, and we're going to add some pieces up top. We're going to go this direction, and I'm going to make sure to cover the edge first, and then I will cover my paper on the back and just getting it all secure. Collage is just such a fabulous way to start an art journal page, you guys, because you can make a big impact with some pieces. It kind of gives you a direction. It takes away that scary blank page, which can sometimes be so intimidating to just get started. So often when I art journal, I don't have a specific idea to start with. I'm just going to start putting things on the page and see where it goes. And it can be intimidating to start on a blank art journal and not know what you want the finished product to look like. However, I would argue that's kind of how you should always start, because so rarely does the finished product look like what you think it was going to look like anyway. So I just kind of like putting things down and going for it. So next up is going to be the Simplicity girls here. We're going to trim them out and have them, I just wanted to figure out how big they were going to be to position on the page. They're not going to go on quite yet, but I just wanted to trim them out. I love looking for these older patterns. You can oftentimes find them in thrift shops or vintage shops, and they're like $1, maybe $2. And so they're fun to pick up. I generally use them for the artwork on the cover, but the patterns, I mean, they're obviously still great patterns, and vintage clothing is back. So if you do sew, you can definitely create all the things with these patterns. But for me, I just love the illustrations. Anytime it's an illustration on the front instead of an actual photo, then that is definitely going to speak to me. And I like that you can also color over these and create your own color schemes if you want. I'm sticking with the color schemes that I saw on here, but these are certainly adaptable. Like you can change them up. I love having these images. All right, I'm going to pull out this ruler stencil. This is from Tim Holtz, and we're going to go with the Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink. I actually just thought the name was perfect, and of course I wanted to go with the blue. We're going to fill in some of the white space and also go over a few of the patterned papers here. Ruler all at the bottom to kind of set a place for the ladies to stand, and then I will have little hints of this image in other parts of the page as well. And I'm not being super careful. Like you can see, my stencil's gonna shift a little. I'm not using pixie spray on this particular stencil just because I want just the hints. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to, I hope, be more of a background piece. You're just gonna see the measuring tape coming through. It seemed obviously like the perfect addition to my sewing pattern to add a measuring tape feel in the background, and when I layer on top of it, it'll feel like it's just popping out of different sections of my art journal page. So let's add that a few more spots. It's getting a little busy looking, but all of that will settle down momentarily when I pull out my next supply, which is going to be Distress Oxide spray. And we're gonna go, I think I'm actually gonna go with Chip Sapphire. It's a little bit of a darker blue, trying to mix it up pretty well. I always spray in this box just to keep it contained a little bit. You guys ask me all the time, have I figured out how to spray without getting the donut look? Nope, I haven't. If you figure out, let me know. It just does it with these sprays sometimes. It doesn't bother me too much because I'm always going to be layering on top. I let that dry completely. You can see it kind of covered up some of the measuring tape, but it still comes through, and it, because it was wet, it oxidized the ink that was underneath it, so you get this cool impression. It's a whole thing. I love how it came out. I have another stencil here. This is a circle stencil from Tim Holtz, and now I have yellow acrylic paint, and I am filling in just the diagonal circles here. So I love the bigger circles, so I decided I'm going to go with that. We're going to fill in the diagonal. Yes, the wet acrylic paint does cause the oxide spray and the oxide to react, so you're going to see it kind of change colors sometimes. Doesn't bug me. I actually like it. I don't need it to be completely opaque. I am going to go through a few of these spots just to make it a little bit thicker, a little bit more vibrant to get that yellow down, but I'm just painting in some of those circles. Now I will dry a little bit, peel it up, got this diagonal circle thing going, and then we're going to bring that up across the page. What I'm wanting to do in this particular case is kind of create a landing place for my girls. So they're going to be stationed, you might say, over those yellow dots. And I'm just trying to bring attention to where they're going to exist. So I continually dry this acrylic paint because I definitely don't want it to like smear all over the page as I'm moving the stencil around. There you go. Figuring out how to dry this, and then I want to continue it. I want to have it go horizontal too, because I want to create a continuity between the two pages, something that's in common. And of course, there's lots of stuff in common between the two pages, but something that draws your eye, like a line. And so we're going to fill in up here, and then you can see I picked up where that diagonal was going to be. And then for the other side, I'm actually going to move it down just a little bit, so it's going to be slightly more centered, and we'll keep going with the same pattern, and that'll move your eye in different ways around the page, which I think is nice. Before, it felt very static. Once these circles were on the page, I could feel a little bit more movement, so I think that was definitely the direction I was hoping to go. All right, once each section dries, then I just move my stencil over and keep filling in. I don't often use acrylic paint in my stencils. I obviously use Distress Oxide ink the most. I generally blend through the stencils. I use spray. I don't always use acrylic paint, and I kind of like it. So to make them pop a little bit more, I decided I did want to go ahead and add some messy circles. So I'm not being really careful. We're just using a black Sharpie, circling these. I don't need it to be perfect. I want it to look a little lopsided in some parts, but it really helps these dots to kind of jump out a little bit. I ended up deciding, so it looks a little junky maybe up here at the top where I have the two lines that they don't really meet up, but I find it interesting anyway. I think that would be a great place for the title of the page to exist. I actually did not title this art journal entry. I didn't add any words to this art journal entry, which is shocking to all of you, I'm sure, because words are like my jam. I'm going to add some highlights to just some of the circles. We're not going to do all of them. I try to do 2 to 3 circles in each little section just to break up the color a little bit and change up the pattern so it's not so, I don't know, not so organized. Then I wanted to put dots down the page, but to be honest, my Posca paint pen is running out. I need to order some new ones. So instead of the paint pen, I'm going to pull out some white acrylic paint. This is me trying to figure out the paint pen and make it work. It wasn't going to work. So instead, I'm going to pull out some white acrylic paint and add a stitching detail all around the edge. So again, we're going with the sewing theme, the stitching theme, and of course I love adding stitching anyway around the edges, so we're going to just use the white acrylic paint. It does react with the Distress Oxide spray that's on the edges, so you'll see the white get a little bit less vibrant in some areas, and that's just because it's picking up the blue as it goes. That's okay. The fading looks nice, but I do like how it focuses in the page. That's good. And then what would an art journal page be without splatters? That I ask you because I always love splatters. We're going to add blue and yellow and white to fill in some of these spots. There were some of the places where the blue was that I felt were almost too dark and a little bit dull looking. When you use the Distress Oxide sprays, they have a chalky look to them. Not necessarily feel, but a chalky look to them when they're completely dry, and I wanted to change that up. So specifically for the yellow and the white, I'm using the Dina Wakley acrylic spray to do the splatters, and so that'll have a tiny little bit of a sheen to it, so it'll break up the dullness of the Distress Oxide spray. And then some white for good measure. Once I get all of the splatters done, the next thing to do, of course, is to add my girls back onto this page. They're ready to rejoin their pattern over here, and they're gonna be in that bottom left corner. So let's add a little bit of adhesive to the back of them. I do want to make sure I get the edges pretty well, just because I don't want it to start to pull up as I'm flipping through the art journal later on. I can't believe this art journal is almost done. I think I might retire it at the end of this year and start fresh for 2023. I don't know what size I'm going to do. I'm slightly tempted to do an Archer and Olive notebook for an art journal. We'll see. I don't know how that would hold up to all of the mixed media that I would like to do, so we'll kind of see. All right, got my ladies over here all settled. I do want to do something to make them feel a little bit more included in the page, so I'm going to just grab a regular pen and add some stitching around the edges, just some extra stitching line, and that's going to be it for this art journal entry. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. Like I said before, I will link the supplies that I used down in the description box below, so you can feel free to check that out. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. You guys are awesome. We're having a great time. We're doing fun projects. We are building quite the little community over there. So if you want to come join us, then make sure to check out the link for Patreon in the description box below. All right. I hope that you have a fabulous day. And as always, keep it creative.